This is based on a book by a man named Nirmala, and the question that I pose is enlightenment good for you? And or is enlightenment bad for you? It's a provocative question because those who are in spiritual circles will go through questions about how can I be more spiritual, or how can I have spiritual experiences, or how can I become enlightened? And it ends up just taking you in circles because it's the what's good for me question. And it is an interesting notion to assume that there is something that is good and that other things are bad. What it means is that we're not integrating what's happening. This is not to say that in our lifetimes we may transcend preferences, but if we are beginning our spiritual search with an idea of preferences, with an idea of rejecting what's happening, that there's some better future state or stage, then we're shooting ourselves in the foot or chasing our own tail. The other question of when I want enlightenment is, who is this I that we're talking about? We're linking ourselves up with some imaginary structure, some identity that we've taken ourselves to be, and that identity will somehow get improved by something called enlightenment. So the more useful question is to ask what is true. What is true puts us in the present moment. It doesn't begin to judge the present moment. It just puts us away from illusion. And if the result is something called enlightenment, well, that's fine. And if the result is simply making peace with whatever suffering is happening, that's fine too. We drop any of these expectations or needs to somehow be better than we are. And in this search for what is true, we can begin to look towards the source of any of our thoughts, our feelings, our sensations, our opinions, our desires. We look and say, where is this coming from? And then where did it just go? Where did it go to? We're so focused in our lives on what it's pointing towards, like I want chocolate or I want vanilla, instead of like, well, where did that thought come from? And then I'm not thinking about that anymore. Where did it suddenly go to? And not that we can ever see this thing, because this thing is pure awareness. It can't be seen, obviously, because otherwise, if you see it, it's being seen by pure awareness. But that inquiry, that is sort of an emptying out. So by shifting the question to what is true rather than how can I get enlightened, then we are getting away from this question of what is good for me. Because then this is such a huge relief, because then the job is not to make my life turn out a certain way. All I'm doing is looking at what's happening, what's true right now. That's it. I'm not trying to shape it or push it any direction. And so then the question, what is true, always points us to the present moment. And then when you get to the present moment, it may not be a glamorous or spiritual moment, but there's no suffering because we're not trying to be somewhere else that we think is better, or running away from some other time that we thought was worse. We're just here, now. And Nirmala writes in his book, quote, "The extent to which you are still looking out for the, quote, me, when you ask this question," the question being what is true, "is the extent that you will suffer." So in other words, if you're asking the question, what is true, trying to make things better for you, your identity, who you take yourself to be, your self-image, then you're going to suffer. To whatever extent the question, what's in it for me, is still in play, you will suffer. If you are trying to get some goodies along the way for me, then you have wandered off the truth of what is happening right now. The suffering is equal to the distance between here and now and what you have given your heart to. If you have given your heart to here and now, you won't suffer. So you sort of like, I'm giving my full heart to whatever's happening right now, even finding appreciation for it, even if there's suffering. That's my addition there. But if you have given it to how it could be, or how it should be, or how it was or will be, then you will have drifted from the truth and you will suffer. Let me say that again. If you have given your heart to the here and now, you won't suffer. But if you have given it to how it could be, how it should be, how it was or will be, then you have drifted from the truth and you will suffer. Now this might sound challenging, but all we need to do, essentially, is realize that it's incredibly foolish to want things to be different. because things are not different. They're the way they are. And so if we just drop any of those questions, if they come to mind, we just go back to what is true, what is true, what is true, then we're freed from the desire to make things different, and then we're freed from the suffering that goes along with it. As Buddha said, desire creates suffering. And what creates desire is the belief that the moment should be different than it is. But the moment is not different than it is. So the story can keep going, and the desires can keep going. We don't have to change them. But the illusions are not going to be a problem because we see that they are illusions.